The time is 8:41, and you're still tuned in to Salam Media. And joining us right now is founder of LearnFree, Christopher Cordeiro. The Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, or AKA the Bella Bill, as it is affectionately known, is in the spotlight. And sessions and public hearings are being held over the matter. The bill seeks to amend key education laws in South Africa and has sparked controversy and drawn criticism from various quarters. And to give us more on this about what exactly is this Bella Bill that everyone is talking about, and how is it going to be affecting you as a parent of a student in South Africa, is of course Christopher Cordeiro, founder of LearnFree, is joining us via StreamYard. Good morning, Christopher, and thank you so much for joining us on Salam Media.
Well, good morning, and good morning to all of the listeners and viewers, I suppose, on Salam Media.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think let's jump right into it. For someone that doesn't know, what exactly is the Bella Bill in the simplest of forms? If you could explain it and summarize it as much as you can, what is it? What is the Bella Bill, and what does it propose?
Well, it's a basic education laws amendment bill. So what it means is it's not like a completely new law. It's changing an existing law. And the law that it's changing is the South African Schools Act of 1996. Now, that was, of course, the Post-Apartheid Education Act. It reformed the education system in South Africa. We moved from, I think, 17 different racially based education departments to 9 provincial departments and 1 department of basic education, unified eventually the matric exam process. So that was a huge foundational bill for South Africa, and this is the biggest reform of the law since 1996. It's I think 54 clauses now, originally was 56. So it's a substantial reform of that 1996 Act, which kind of set the foundation for post-apartheid basic education in South Africa.
I'm just looking at some of the amendments that are expected to be made, excuse me, by, the Bella Bill, and one of them, well, a few of them, making grade R compulsory, and then another one, criminalizing parental negligence in school attendance, home education regulation. Looking at this bill, it seems like it's ticking the right boxes. Why is there so much, well, hurrah around it?
It's the old story. The devil is in the detail, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's really the problem. I think that there's kind of, let's say that there's a broad reason, and then there's a kind of narrow reason. So what's the broad reason? I think the broad reason is that, as the department itself admits, this is an administrative bill. They're trying to kind of fix administrative issues. And the educational crisis in South Africa is so deep and so profound that we can't address it through just, let's say, moving the deck chairs on the Titanic. We need very much like we had in 1996, which was a major administrative reform. We now need a rights-based reform of the education law. So that is what underlies a lot of the objections to the bill. And certainly we've been following, as LearnFree, we've been following this bill since the National Assembly process, the public engagement, and that's what a lot of people are saying. They want real educational issues addressed. They're not really concerned with many of these small technical changes. Then I think when you drill down, you get into the problem of the devil being in the detail. So you mentioned grade R. I think there's a universal acceptance that early childhood education is very important. The problem is, all we're doing in Bella Bill is we're just making it compulsory. We're not actually, and we're only making grade R compulsory. So I think people are concerned that grade R is being made compulsory without any clear, nothing else in the bill talks about ECD or grade R. It's literally, I think there's maybe one definitional change, and there's the thing which is it's now compulsory. So there's no framework about how this is going to be put in action. I think there's a lot of concerns about that. One of the concerns, there was a meeting of the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education yesterday, and one of the concerns that was addressed is that a curriculum is going to be enforced in ECDs. And that's causing a lot of concern. Homeschoolers are concerned about the bill because of the because it's the minister who makes a decision about whether a child should or should not be homeschooled. That's, I think, a fundamental concern for homeschoolers, as well as the fact that there needs to be freedom of, and homeschoolers are calling for freedom of curriculum and assessment. And then, in terms of, and you mentioned a very sensitive issue, the increase in the penalty for parents whose children are not attending school. Now, I think we all want children to get an education; it's a fundamental right. The problem is, do you achieve that by criminalizing parents? Non-school attendance, all of the research shows, is a multifaceted social problem, and you don't address that problem through criminalization. In fact, the research shows that when you impose fines and you criminalize school attendance, non-school attendance, what then happens is that non-school attendance actually goes up, because parents run away because they've got their reasons that they're not able to get their children to school. I don't think there are many parents who sit there and say, I want to deny my child an education. But so we need more of a social work-based approach to that, rather than a kind of high-handed criminalization of parents who are in general in desperate situations. And the example that's always taken is the parent who's sitting with their child on the street corner begging. Well, we need to address the begging. Why are they begging with their children? Because they can't eat, so they don't have food at home. So, those are the issues we need to address, rather than criminalizing those parents.
Mm, mm. I know, there's a lot that's, being done around the bill right now. There's a lot of organizations protesting. Where are we with regards to it being passed into legislature? And is there, anything that organizations like yourselves and parents can do to make sure that some of these, amendments that are expected to be made are, correct in essence?
Okay, yes. So there's a lot to be done. So where are we at the moment? The bill is in the National Council of Provinces, which is the final legislative stage. So this is kind of almost the last opportunity for the public to be able to have input. I also want to thank your radio station, because we usually only hear about these things at the very, almost when they've been passed into law, the day before they've been passed into law. And you guys have been at the forefront of actually making the public aware for a long time now. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why there's so much public awareness about this bill. So I want to thank you again for that. So that's where the bill is at the moment. What is happening now is there are public hearings taking place in Gauteng, in Eastern Cape. They still have to taking place in the Western Cape. I think those are the major provinces where there's still public hearings taking place. Free State as well. The big thing to do now is for members of the public to attend public hearings if they can. If they can't attend public hearings, to send in even a very short submission on the bill. And LearnFree, we've got on our website, we've got a number of easy submissions where people can just sort of get these submissions in and express their concerns about the bill. And then also the National Council of Provinces has oral hearings from organizations on the 6th, 7th, and 8th of March. LearnFree is fortunate that we're going to be able to be making a submission along with a number of other people. So we'll also raise these issues. But it would be great if people could go to our website, send in a submission. One of the issues we're looking at particularly is independent micro schools, and making sure that they can be included in the educational dispensation. And if people can send those in, it will help us when we speak to Parliament to be able to say, these are the concerns that people are raising.
You did mention that a lot of awareness still needs to be done around the bill. But looking at you mentioned that there are oral hearings that are being heard. Is there participation? Are parents and education bodies really immersed into this, and in any way trying to enforce that change? Do you see participation at that level that it can ultimately make a change and make sure that the South African Schools Act makes real amendments to the bill?
Well, I'll say that when the DBE put this bill out for public comment in 2017, the DG said that there was a tsunami of responses and comments. unlike anything he'd ever seen in all of his time in civil service. What I can say is I've just been completely blown away by the level of participation, particularly over the last few weeks. The public are really getting out there. The meetings are overcrowded sometimes, but don't be put off. Please go in, have your voice heard, participate through written comments as well, because when you are at these meetings, even if you don't get a chance to speak, you can submit a written comment. Please submit a written comment. We are seeing amazing levels of public participation at the moment, but we'd always like to see more, because this bill affects the roughly 13 million learners in home education, and 13 million learners in school, and
Mm.
we've only touched the surface of the issues of the bill
Mm.
in
And
our short interaction.
and just lastly, response from the Department of Basic Education, your engagements with them, how have those been?
Well, the bill is sort of out of the hands of the Department of Education to a large extent now. It's in the hands of Parliament. Um, I think that on different issues there's been some progress, but the fundamental problem with the bill is engagement. There has not been enough engagement with school governing bodies. There's not been enough engagement with the homeschoolers. There's been no engagement with the independent micro school sector, which is a large sector, and particularly I think many of your audience will be involved with Hafiz schools, and they
Mm.
often fall under that sector. So um, there's just been this complete lack of engagement. And I also think there's the issue that often the Department of Basic Education, they're teachers, so they're often informing the public rather than listening
Mm.
to the public, and that's really what's at the fundamental flaw of this bill. One of the things that we are calling for as Learn Free, it's not in the bill, but it's something that we want to see, is fundamental reform of how we make policy in this country, because we need to address the upstream problems upstream, and particularly education policy. We need to address the upstream problems upstream, and not be sitting in 3 years' time or 4 years' time or 5 years' time with a downstream problem that we could have solved by proper engagement upstream, when we were asking what are the problems. And we really haven't asked properly in this bill, what are the problems that we're trying to solve.
I think we're going to leave it there. Christopher Cordeiro from LearnFree, thank you so much for giving us your time and keeping us updated on the bill.
Thank you so much, and thank you to your listeners, and thank you for their involvement, because I know that they are among those crowds of people who are out there. So thank you very much.
Definitely. Yeah, well, there you have it there. Christopher Cordeiro, they giving us insight on the Bella Bill and why there's so much noise around it. I'm just looking at, some of the amendments that are expected to be made if the Bella Bill is passed by Parliament. And one of them is language policy in schools. The amendment requires schools governing bodies to submit their language policies for approval. These policies must consider the linguistic needs of the broader community. Another one is, and I think this one is a very interesting one that our audience would be really concerned of. The sale of alcohol on school premises. The clause permits the possession, consumption, or sale of liquor at private or religious events on school premises. Imagine that, hey? Alcohol being sold at a school. Yeah, I think these are some of the amendments that are expected to be made by the Bella Bill. So I think we're going to continue keeping an eye on that and just how far engagements with Parliament and all stakeholders are at this current moment on whether or not we'll be seeing those changes made to the South African Education Bill. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be taking the news with Said Jedward right after this.